Five-Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. Welcome to another great episode of the Five-Star Revolution podcast. Join us on Facebook right now. Just type it in, folks. Five-Star Revolution podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Five-Star Revolution podcast so you can listen to all of our great episodes. Tonight, we have a very special guest all the way from Richmond, Virginia. His name is Timmy Danger. How you doing tonight?
What's up, dude? So good to be here with you guys here on the Five-Star podcast. 5 stars all the way. Remember to leave 5 stars on this podcast too after you hear it. No, not
I
4 stars.
appreciate it.
5. We want 5.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. 5 stars all the way. I appreciate that plug. So, I want to start from the beginning here. I always ask this question. This is my first question to pretty much every wrestler that comes on my show. Everybody has a different answer. That's why I ask it.
All
Were
right.
you a fan of the wrestling growing up? And if so, who were your favorite wrestlers?
Oh, geez, man. I was like a fanatic, dude. I'm going to show my age here, so kayfabe, brother. But the first thing I remember seeing was Demolition when I was a kid. And I was instantly hooked on wrestling after that. After that, it was all kind of downhill. So grew up in when I was a kid, I lived up by close to you. I lived in New York as a kid. I lived up in Staten Island when I was younger, and which is as you're very familiar, at the time a WWF territory. So it wasn't like really a lot of NWA back then or anything else. So it's really all I knew as a kid. But I was obsessed, man. All the guys from back in the day, of course, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, those were my guys, Demolition, I was still a huge fan of Demolition. Have strangely never met Axe or Smash in all my travels in wrestling, which is odd to me, but I never have. But went all over the place. But like I said, huge fan, like fanatic. Later on in life, when I was in middle school, I moved out here to Richmond, Virginia, where I live now. And I kind of opened the doors for me with wrestling a little bit as a kid because I got exposed to NWA, got exposed to WCW, got exposed to later on ECW. Just became a fanatic, man. I know once again I'm aging myself terribly here, right? But every week, going to the grocery store, begging for the magazines, all that jazz. I remember, it's so funny. PWI back in the day had a thing where it was like, if you wanted to get into the world of wrestling, mail $15 and they'll give you some book, like some like handheld book on all the tricks and trades into wrestling. This is before the internet, mind you. So I begged my parents to buy it for me. And I remember I got a pamphlet, and it was such a hokey work. And it's so funny because I've talked to guys around my age who had this book too, and it's a little crappy pamphlet of ways to get into wrestling. I remember the most important thing I read in there was the first time I heard the term heel and babyface. It was the first time I was blown away by it. I knew some insider knowledge. I was in on something. Right? And so I grew up obsessed, man. Like Ric Flair was my inspiration, my favorite of all time. Later on, Mick Foley, huge inspiration. Funny story I always tell is I actually told Mick Foley the story. When I was in high school, I worked at an amusement park, and WWF at the time had a house show at this theme park, right? And Mick Foley and some of the boys ran. It wasn't even really the boys. It was like Mick Foley and Ivory and no disrespect to Ivory, legend of course, right? But it was a lot of office people came to ride the roller coaster I worked on, and I marked out so hard for Mick Foley, I almost got fired that night. And they pulled me to the side, and they were the management was yelling at me, and I'm like, yeah, I get that, but that's Mick Foley. What do you not get, guys? So I grew up a fanatic, dude. I can't even hide it, man. I just always loved it, man. For whatever weird reason, just always loved wrestling.
Sounds like me, man. When I used to work at the movie theater in my area, I remembered when Goldberg walked in, and I
Yeah.
was, holy crap! Why is Goldberg in my area in this movie theater? They must have been having a show in the area or something.
Yeah.
So
I remember I had a sock on me. I had a long tube sock. in my pocket all day for the chance that he might ride this roller coaster. Luckily, it paved. I wish I knew that sock was now, but I had him sign an ECW shirt too to give you an idea of the kind of fandom I had growing up.
So let's skip ahead later on down in your life. How'd you
Yeah.
figure out where wrestling school was in your area? How'd you find out about it? And who was your original trainer?
Okay, that's a story of itself. So I was like obsessed, right, with wrestling, and I knew early on this is what I want to do, right? Like, um, I went to some independent shows in middle school, and back then, like, so back then it was a little different time. Like wrestling in the I grew up in the '90s, and wrestling was a little more secretive back then. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to go to wrestling school. We go back to that pamphlet book we were talking about. I remember writing the letters to the wrestling schools and stuff. And a funny story I always tell people is my family is from New York, right? And I wanted to call a wrestling school, but there really wasn't a wrestling school in Virginia that I knew of, or that was over enough to be like in a magazine or something. You know what I mean? So I remember I called the House of Hardcore with the mindset of if my parents see the phone bill, they'll see a New York number and think that they called like a family member or something. And this is so funny. I called and like Taz answered, and I realized it was Taz. I hung up. Just such a like scared to death. But I went to a high school that was uh very much a uh based on athletics. Like I wasn't like a high school athlete really, but like a lot of kids from my high school went and played D1 football, D1 basketball, and that really is like to be that level of an athlete, you got to have something, you know what I'm saying? And when you're just some like skinny 15-year-old kid and you see a kid going to Michigan next year as a running back, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty intimidating, And so I did. That was kind of my thoughts. Like maybe I'm not going to do this because I'm not that, But and also since I wasn't necessarily an athlete growing up, I always heard these horror stories, and you know what I'm talking about. Like I pictured wrestling school in my head as like the AWA. Like I'd be doing 1,000 squats in the snow with like
Yeah.
Vern Gagne with like an anvil on my head, and like after 2 years of doing push-ups in the snow, maybe I can sniff the ring kind of shit. I don't know why I thought that, but it's what I thought. Um, anyway, long story short, when I was in college, I wound up meeting a group of guys here in Richmond who were a local crew of wrestlers, and they were all like around my size, or some guys were smaller. Some of the guys in that crew were Chris Silvio, who's a trainer down in Florida. James Long, who's a producer at NXT now, he was in that crew. Chris Hoyer wrestles as Lucas Calhoun every now and again still. He was in that crew. He wrestled Horror Show for years. Those are the guys. Also, Chris Sharp, who was Chip Danning in NXT UK. He's a referee. He became a part later, but he was definitely in that crew. And for me, like, they were all smaller guys around my size. They're my friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're my buddies. And it kind of put a human face on things. It wasn't, I felt a lot more comfortable picking their brain on how to get in the business than I would like if I dropped like say, and I think this is a great idea and people should do this, but if I dropped like $4,000 to a wrestling school, you know what I'm saying? And it was a lot less intimidating. So long story longer rather, was I got involved with them. They were my buddies and they had local shows and bars before that was a thing, you know. And I just begged them to get me involved. And I begged. And I would hand out I would remember I would like they'd give me a stack of flyers, like, oh, here's a job for you. I'm like, oh my God, can I? You know what I mean? And I would do that, and I would do the sound. And after just all this time of begging, they finally let me start training with them. And I got my initial training. It was in a backyard where the ring was. They had the ring in a backyard. And the guys, and to their credit, like they showed me what they knew at the time. But that was my introduction to wrestling. It was a ring in a backyard, and they showed me what they knew.
Hey man, sounds like a lot of us that start wrestling. We start wrestling backyard wrestling, and then we move on to the real
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you pretty much paid your dues before you started paying your dues.
pretty much. Pretty much. Like, I'll never forget, I was walking downtown one day I forgot where I was going. And horror show, Chris Hoyer, Lucas Calhoun, whatever, just happened driving by me, and he rolled down his window and says, "Hey, be at the show at 3:00. We got a job for you." And I'm like, "I have a job? I have a spot on the show." And let alone it was doing music. But I was like, what am I, how should I enter the ring for this? Right? But I was to do sound. So it was just funny. But yeah, so totally. I was paying dues before I was even in the business, really, if you think about it.
So when you officially got into the business, who was your first opponent, your official singles match?
Well, that's kind of I kind of had two first matches, which is kind of weird, but it's how it worked. My first, like, I guess you'd say, like, match on a sanctioned, organized wrestling show, if there was a show in Fort Lee, Virginia, for a promotion called Hardcore Pro Wrestling, an illustrious company, if ever was one, of course. And I was a manager in a 6-man tag in the opening match. And after that, I was pretty much, this is what I'm going to do. I was just a manager, of course, but this is what I wanted to do. My first show, it was opening 6-man tag match, and I was the heel manager. Had no clue what I was doing, but that was it. That was all downhill from there. My first match as a wrestler is actually kind of interesting story. I had stopped training with the Lucha guys, and I started working with Ground Zero Wrestling out of Richmond, Virginia, which no longer exists. But I started training as a wrestler and had a little more of a formal training there. And I get a phone call from my buddy who wrestled as the Pharaoh back then, and he said, "The Insane Clown Posse has a I can see your face right now, has a show at the Norva here in Richmond, and they just need like a job guy. They just need a guy, right?" And I was like, "Oh, will I ever?" Right? So I get down there, and it was the way it was set up was the Insane Clown Posse had I think it was like a tour. I don't know what it was, but it was like they'd have like maybe three or four. I don't know how many bands, but a band would play. Then to the side of the stage, there was a wrestling ring in the crowd. So it was kind of like a band would play and then two matches, then two JCW matches. Band would play two matches. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like that. And I went out there as the Juggalo Assassin, and I wrestled Corporal Robinson, who was I know it. I mean, no disrespect. I wasn't familiar, and I didn't know he was a death man. I didn't know what he was really, but that was my first match. Was Corporal Robinson, and I was under a mask at a Insane Clown Posse concert, and it went well as it could. Nobody was hurt. Everything went smooth. They let me talk on the mic, and I said a lot of bad things about Juggalos. But that was my first wrestling match. Was I wrestled Corporal Robinson at an Insane Clown Posse concert.
Man,
Then
that sounds.
afterwards, yeah, what's up?
I was gonna say, man, that sounds very interesting and wild.
Yeah. Afterwards, there was an arcade machine in the back of Double Dragon was the game, and I played Double Dragon with Necro Butcher after the match. So, what a night!
So my next question is, for our listeners that are listening right now who don't know who you are, who is Timmy Danger and how'd you come up with that character?
Timmy Danger. Who is Timmy Danger? Well, I'm just the guy from Richmond, Virginia. I love the wrestling business. My character, if you will, the Spring Truth Timmy Danger has kind of evolved over time. Right now, past couple of years, I've been doing kind of a Jim Jones kind of guru, kind of cultish figure with a group called the Sanctuary. That came about up in New Jersey for a place called Capital Wrestling, which is now Catalyst Wrestling out of New York. I had moved back to Virginia from Louisville, Kentucky. I was out in Louisville at OVW and doing some indies out there. And trying to find my footing, if you will. I was kind of coming to the ring at the time wearing a big fur coat and had a can of hairspray. But the problem was people thought I was ripping off Marty Skrull, which I wasn't. It was just kind of cool. But I knew I needed to do something new. So at the time, my buddy Marcus Dowling, who he was a wrestling manager out of DC, was the booker up there, and he kind of pitched me an idea of being kind of like he called it a mix of Dusty Rhodes and Raven. And I remember asking him to just pull two names out of a hat. Like, what'd you do there? Those are two. And he kind of pitched the idea, and I kind of then took it and kind of morphed it into my own. And it's kind of evolved over the years. I think at my core base, though, I'm kind of a loudmouth, obnoxious asshole. It's my gimmick. But that's kind of where I've been going the past couple of years with that. And it's worked pretty well for me, I think. I'm wearing the hoodie right now, so there's a few shirts of it, so that's good.
So, are you a heel right now?
Most places I'm a heel, yeah. I do enjoy working babyface, but right now I'm a heel.
So,
In most form.
that was gonna be my next question. What do you enjoy doing more, being a baby face and a heel, or and why?
They're both fun for two different reasons. I always tell people that it's easier to be a heel because it's just natural for people to. It's easier to get someone to dislike you than it is to get someone to like you. You know, so like this interview, like you and I have been kind of yucking, kind of like talking the shit, and kind of laughing around and stuff. Now you think, Timmy's a pretty okay guy, so we're getting along good. But if this had been like, let's say you had Skyped me and I'd been an asshole, like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? Why don't you have a background? This is someone, fuck this. He's like, well, this guy's an asshole. You know what I'm saying? So that took maybe like less than a minute for you to not like me, but took a few more minutes for you to be like, okay, this guy seems cool. He's all right guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I like being a heel because, I find it kind of natural. I've been doing it a long time. So, I mean, I find it kind of a little more easier than natural. But being a babyface is fun too, man, because just it's a different kind of fun. Like, it's fun getting the crowd to boo you or chant you suck, but it's also cool having them get behind you and chant your name and stuff, So I like them both for two different reasons.
I think being a heel is much easier, and it's easier to get the fans to hate you than to like you. But that's the easy way out. You have to challenge yourself sometimes.
Yeah, I think every wrestler in wrestling school should always start off as a babyface. And my reason for that is what you just said. Like, if you go out there and act like a dick with your middle fingers in the air and saying this town sucks, your football team sucks, that's easy, But if you're trying to learn how to work and learn the craft, to go out there in front of a town you've never heard of, in your underwear, in front of people you've never met before, and get them to like you, that's the challenge. That's what separates the men from the boys.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So this is my favorite part of the podcast, where I ask the wrestler to cut a promo for me in character for like 30 seconds if you can, on anything that you think you can do it.
I have 30 seconds. Oh my God.
30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever you want to do.
We're on the 5-Star podcast.
5-Star Revolution podcast.
5-Star Revolution podcast. I want to get it right, so I'm screwing it up, man. I want a podcast one time. I kept screwing their name up, and at the end they were like, the podcast is actually called this. So I always want to make sure that I get the name right of things. So you got 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
All right, you got it, man. All right, if you're listening right here, we're on the 5-Star Revolution podcast. Timmy Danger here with my main man, CJ, and we're going all over the place, having you trust in the sanctuary, having you put the gauntlet on your fist, pledge allegiance to Timmy Danger and the 5-Star podcast. And the best way you can do that is you go to Timmy Danger, you go on Instagram, you give me a follow, you give me a like on Facebook, you follow me on Twitter, and you give a 5-star review to the 5-Star Revolution podcast. That's what you need to do right now. Trust me on that, and trust in the sanctuary. Trust in the 5-Star Revolution podcast.
I love that, man. I love that. But that was a baby face.
Man, I'm trying to get likes here. Likes here, man.
I want to hear a heel promo in character. Don't do it.
Do a heel promo, but why should I do that? I save those for the real podcast. I save that for this whole Cabana show. Maybe I'll do it on there. Maybe I'll go on another podcast. Do that. Is Conan O'Brien? Can you have me on there? I'll cut a better one on there. He had Dan Houser. What's he got that I don't? He used to be called Donovan Danger. We might be distantly related. Maybe I could go on. Who else? Joe Rogan. I should be on Joe Rogan doing that. But no, here I am with you, and leave a 1-star review for this guy. Unless it's my episode, then it's 5 stars, maybe 10 stars. I'll have Meltzer do a 7-star review.
Both promos were great, man. I was just giving you a hard time, man. So my next question for you, Mr. Danger, is why does wrestling mean so much to you?
Wrestling is just it's just always. I mean, wrestling was like my love. Is you know what I'm saying? Like when I was a kid, like wrestling was always there. You know what I'm saying? Like everything I like, no matter what happened in life, I had Raw at 9 o'clock on Monday. You know, and it's just I just been such an obsession, a love for me, and a passion. I think it's such a great art form. You know, I think it's I've done a lot of other things in my life. Like I've done, I've done some acting, I've done some stunt work, I've done music videos. Check those out if you can. But with this, I just love so much the instant gratification of the crowd. Or the set, you know what I mean? Like when you make a music video, when you act or do a play, do something like that, um, you may pour your heart and soul into a video, but you gotta wait maybe a month till it's edited, 2 months, and then you see people's reactions. Wrestling is just almost like I don't want to say a drug, but just such a cool thing that to feel it when people are into it. You know, when you're on the mic or in the ring and people are reacting the way you want to accordingly. It's just such an amazing art form and such an amazing thing to me. And that's why I think I love it so much. And I mean, I'm a big comic book guy, and to me, it's a live action comic book. You know, there's good guys, there's bad guys, there's twists and turns, there's storylines, and that's one of the things I love about it. And I just think it's such a great art form and such a great form of entertainment.
That's a great answer, and I definitely agree with you. Wrestling is a great art form, and I wish more people thought about it that way.
Yeah, I think it gets kind of a bad rep because I feel like when people aren't fans of wrestling, they number one, their connotation is always fake, and it's like I mean, that's how you feel. I don't think you've been exposed to it enough. I think no one watches that. Spider Man's coming out this weekend. No one's gonna watch Spider Man be like, "This is fake." Tom Holland's English. You know what I'm saying? Um, but also I think sometimes you get the connotation of like, and this is of kind of like the old school like two beer bellied guys in underwear trunks beating each other up when it's really not that. I think that's kind of people's, or they get a connotation of the hokey like Ultimate Warrior kind of stuff. And I think if people really watched kind of the modern presentation or really saw what it is, they'd really enjoy it and get it. Because some people just don't get it. They have already a preconceived connotation of this is Ultimate Warrior doing hokey bullshit. When really that's not it.
100%, my friend. 100%. Just people have a closed mind when it comes to professional wrestling if they're not fans.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But my next question for you, Mr. Timmy Danger, what can we expect out of you in the future? What can we expect out of you in the next 3 years?
Oh, 3 years, Jesus. I forgot Christmas was next week. You're talking about 3 years?
3 years. What do you have in mind? You don't have like a set goal?
I'm pretty honest about things. I mean, like I've been around a long time. My chances of headlining WrestleMania are very slim. Let's be honest. I don't know if we'll see Timmy Danger and Roman Reigns on SummerSlam this year, but but right now I just want to keep having great matches, having a great time out there doing it, man. I think for a long time, and I think every wrestler says this, they get so wrapped up in it that they forget to have fun. Maybe they got burnt by a booker or burnt by a promoter or had a bad match. Something may have happened and they get so fired up, but it's like, F this. I'm going to, do this, this, and this. Well, they forget to have fun. My goal right now is, and I'm going to be honest, I mean, I got some time in the ring left. I'm not, I don't have 10 years left or nothing like that, but I got couple more good years left in me. I want to have fun, man. I want to go out there and have a good time interacting with the crowd, sell as many T-shirts and merchandise as I can, and I'd like to get back more into promoting and booking and organizing and stuff like that. But number one, man, I just want to have fun, dude. Because for a long time there was a couple of years where I wasn't, and I was pissed off and wanted to wrestle and wanted to shove it up to all the naysayers' asses. When who gives a shit? Let's go out there, have a good time. This is why we do it, man. If we didn't love this, we wouldn't be doing this. I think a lot of guys just forget that. And my goal for the next however many years I'm doing this is just have a good time and have fun, man. That's what it's about. And then a couple of bucks in the process.
Absolutely. So with that being said, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
a lot of it's the love of the game, and this is what I've always done, and this is what I like to do. So that kind of keeps me motivated now. If you had asked that question 5 years ago, the answer would have been a lot different. If you had asked that 10 years ago, the answer would have been completely different. What keeps me motivated, man, is just I love doing this. I love performing for the crowd. I love interacting with the fans. I just love doing stuff like these podcasts. I mean, that just keeps me motivated. I do enjoy making a couple of bucks. I do enjoy seeing people with my merchandise on and selling T-shirts and things of that. But I just want to have fun, man. That's what it's about to me right now at this point in the game, man. Because for a long time I wasn't, and that kind of made me kind of a shitty dude, I guess you could say. But right now I finally take a couple of steps back, and I'm like, this is pretty cool, man. Let's have a good time.
Absolutely, man. And two more questions before I let you go. My second to last question is, where do you see yourself after you're done wrestling? Do you see yourself as a backstage producer, a
Well,
promoter? What do you want to do?
I'm pretty honest with that. Because of course I've been around a while now, so of course I see I realize I can't do this forever. You know what I mean? Um, I don't think I'll ever be done wrestling. What I mean by that is I don't want to be one of those guys eventually who is like, that guy is still wrestling, really? That's kind of what I don't want to be. But I definitely see myself, as far as in the wrestling industry, I definitely see myself doing more promoting, more booking. Uh, um, also, I was a commentator for OVW and several other promotions for a while. I'd like to do more of that in the future. Also, GM, being a GM, also agent in the back, things of that nature is kind of see myself going outside of wrestling. I've recently been doing a lot more stunt coordinating, stunt work, um, acting work as well. So I got some videos out there as well. One I'm really proud of is shout out to my boy Kane, rapper out of Richmond, Virginia, named Kane, Cane. His video Razor's Edge Up co-stars myself in a wrestling ring. So definitely check that out if you're watching this. Shout out to King Z, the director. I'm doing some more work like that right now, which is a lot of fun and a lot of it's really cool, man. Because it's cool to explain what we do to people who have no idea to me and get them to figure it out. So like I've done some fight scene coordinating, some fight scenes, and it's kind of cool to explain to other actors how this works, because sometimes people have no clue, and oftentimes intimidating as well. They're like, oh my god, this wrestler guy, he's gonna body slam me, but no, not really. I'm gonna show you how this works. So that's kind of where I see my future going as of right now. Of course, in 6 months things might change, but right now that's where I see it going.
Very true, man. Everything can change, anything can happen. My last question, I had the question in mind, but oh man, I forgot the question, so I'm
Uh,
gonna
you
it
know,
happened.
what it rhyme with?
Uh oh, I remember now. If you can change one thing in wrestling, what would that be?
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I'd change anything right now. Honestly, man, I want to be real with you, man. I think wrestling right now is lately has been some of the best it's ever been, man. Because when I started in 2005, and there was TNA existed, but it wasn't like a big deal, right? It wasn't. You know what I mean? Um, there's a lot of places the boys can go now to make money and get a lot of exposure, and a lot of guys now who are getting a lot of good opportunities maybe wouldn't have gotten those opportunities when I started. You know what I mean? And I think really wrestling's the best it's ever been right now for the boys and the fans, because now wrestling's on every night of the week, and there's quality product every night. For the most part. Say what you will about Monday Night Raw, but you know, I enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I can't believe you enjoy that.
I mean, I think that's what it is, man. I mean, you got to realize with wrestling, man. I mean, maybe a guy like you might be a little more like have a little different eye than some people, but I think there's something for everybody. There's something for everybody on that show, in my opinion.
I still watch it. I'm not gonna lie. I still watch
But
Raw.
more of a you have a little more of an insider edge than say a 10-year-old watching it or
Right,
an old.
right.
I'm trying to say. So I think there's something for everybody on the show, and that's what. And if you don't like and on top of that, man, like think about it, right? So I remember vividly buying VHS tapes in the mail, right? Like how archaic, right? And now, like, if you want to find out about, I remember finding out ECW back in the day and having to, buy magazines and wait for like results 3 months later. Now, like, if you can go online to find anything. On top of that, like, and if you don't like you kind of like rolled your eyes when I said Raw. It's kind of like if you don't like Monday Night Raw, if you don't like WWE's product, you don't have to watch Peacock. You can go to IWTV, Internet Wrestling, Independent Wrestling, .com, IWTV. You can go to YouTube, find any matches you want. So really, if there's something you like, you can find it. And I think that's what's great about wrestling right now. Is that's what you can do, is that you can find what you're looking for and you can watch it whenever you want. It's not like when I was a kid, you had to wait once a week. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, man. Wrestling is very accessible. YouTube, you got Peacock, you got all those platforms and channels, Hulu, whatever you want.
To answer your question, if I could change one thing, I would have the WWE Network back instead of this Peacock crap. That's what I would have.
I definitely agree.
Because I feel like the network was kind of geared towards guys like us, where it'd be like, oh, a random episode of Smoky Mountain. Let's watch this. Where I feel like this Peacock stuff is people like my sister who call every show WrestleMania. So that's the one thing I would change. I love the way it's going right now, but I miss my network for $9.99 a month.
I agree, man. So where can our fans catch you on social media? Where can they follow you?
My social media is pretty easy. Instagram is probably my favorite out of all the social medias. So at Timmy Danger on Instagram. Give me a like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Facebook. I don't really have like a fan page. More so is just my regular page. So if you send me a message and a request, I'll probably accept. Just don't be weird. Don't try to like have a video chat with me at like 4 o'clock in the morning. That's weird. Twitter at Timmy Danger. I am the first to tell you I am not very good at Twitter, but give me a follow anyway. Occasionally I post something funny or I retweet somebody funny. So there's that. You want to reach out for bookings, Instagram, Facebook, easy way to do that. My email is thetimmydanger@gmail.com. If you want to reach out that way too, I'm accessible that way as well.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Go follow him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you guys have. Timmy Danger. Thank you so much for joining us on the 5-Star Revolution podcast. It was a true pleasure, and we wish you the best of luck in your career.
I wish you the best luck too, man. Trust in the sanctuary. Give me a follow. Take care, guys.
You too, man. Our listeners, don't forget 5-Star Revolution podcast on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 5-Star Revolution podcast. Have a good night, man.
You too, buddy.